Round 3 of the Thundersport GB Championships comes to Norfolk. It's Snetterton, the fastest circuit on our calendar, and the two classes featured in this show are the bike insurer Thundersport GP1 and the van insurer Sportsman Elite 600s. Look out for reigning champion Peter Baker and Daniel Frears looking to pick up the 600 title this year. Should be a cracker here at Snet. Welcome to Thundersport Elite. So yes, welcome to Snetterton in Norfolk for round 3 of the 2013 Championships with Thundersport GB. This show featuring the Thundersport GP1s, the big bikes effectively, and the Sportsman Elite 600s, which will be coming up first. We're going to focus first, however, on the GP1s, the big bikes. And I have to say, when I looked at the grids for this before the start of the weekend, I got quite excited. A sprinkling of young talent, a few club racing experts, and a bit of British Championship interest as well, all on offer in this class. John Ingram, the Ram as he's known, number 56, one of the favourites, and no surprise to see him on pole position. Danny Murphy not yet lined up second on the grid. Danny, 600 champion from last year. Phil Crow, well, he's won this championship in 2010. So he's always going to be in the mix as Danny Murphy comes to line up on grid place. And then the reigning champion himself, the Murillo Services Kawasaki of Peter Baker. And there is Danny Murphy, last year's Sportsman Elite and Superstock 600 champion. What a year he's having. He just took a couple of races to get used to the new Kawasaki 1000 Superstock machine, but now he is fighting for the race wins. There's a few names on this grid that you will perhaps recognise if you're a regular follower of this sort of racing. And look at that, a full grid here, charging down into turn 1 at Snet, and it's the Ram, John Ingram, that seems to have got off to the best start, as you just see there. 47 and 11 going through. 47 is Darryl Dance, 11 is Ben Scranage. Ben, who has actually got a guest ride on the Night Road Racing Ducati this weekend. Alex Heaton, unfortunately, still injured, not yet out. 77 going through there is Sam Fleetwood. And a number of different riders going through. Jenny Tinmouth was supposed to be racing here today, but she had an off here yesterday and won't be partaking. So the Ram it is that leads, number 56. And he's up ahead of 1, 2, 3, Danny Murphy. Just behind him is number 18. That's Mark Miller on the split lath Aprilia. It's a BSB spec machine. And then that's John Waghorn just tucked in behind him, number 115. Pete Baker, number 1, the reigning GP1 champion. The 54-year-old that's won 15 championships in all in the last 16 years of racing. And then just behind Pete Baker, there is number 71 on the blue, white and yellow BMW. 2010 champion, the 2011 runner-up, plagued with injury last year. And if you watch back at Donington a couple of weeks ago, you'd have seen a disappearing act from John Ingram. He did make a decent effort of it. He did get beaten by Kyle Wilkes in one race that was a 5-lap dash, but he is the real deal, is Mr. Ingram. A very, very quick rider, of course, getting himself ready for that TT venture coming up in the summer. There's number 10. A bit further back, Steve Murphy. Steve, a double Bemsey champion coming into this championship this year. And there is the race leader, though, John Ingram, looking very calm and cool at the front. Danny Murphy doing a good job. Let's not forget, Danny Murphy's on a stock bike compared to the two GP1s that surround him in the form of John Ingram and Mark Miller just behind. Mark is first time for him in the Thundersport GP1 race, and he's doing very well indeed on that split lath Aprilia. He's here with his Chinese teammate actually this weekend. Waion Chong is a bit further back in the grid. Look out for him, number 400. And there's a move further up. There's the reigning champion. Oh, it was a little bit cagey, that move there from Peter Baker, and he's lost quite a bit of momentum as a result, the reigning champion. Just trying to get used to a Kawasaki, having spent years on a Suzuki, but it is a Suzuki that leads. John Ingram ahead of Danny Murphy. There is Waghorn ahead of Adrian Clark, number 3, Peter Baker, number 1, Phil Crow, number 71, and then Steve Murphy, number 10. Chris Barnes is also in that group, Barry Teasdale. Alistair Fagan's having a really good run out, number 44. Alistair Fagan on the JHS Racing Suzuki, journalist for Fast Bikes, of course, is Al. So nice to have him up there. But at the front, it's John Ingram, number 56, that leads. There is last year's 600 champion, Danny Murphy. Mark Miller going through, number 18. There's John Waghorn, an MRO champion. Number 3 going through there, just behind Adrian Clark, our Scotsman. Adrian on the rider from Inverness is actually just flagged up on the time screens as a 10-second penalty for a jump start. He won't know an awful lot about that at the moment, but that will actually put him down into about 11th or 12th, which isn't good news. So effectively, Adrian Clark, you might as well remove him from that group of riders that you're seeing. The thing is that whilst he's battling with Peter Baker and Phil Crowe, they won't know that he's got a 10-second penalty either. So Miller's gone through in 3rd. This is the battle for 4th. Baker up the inside of Adrian Clark now. Peter Baker, who, well, this is very much his local round. The West Winch rider, not far away. He lives just down the road from Bury St Edmunds, so the Morello Services Kawasaki rider would consider this as his home ground. He's won a few races in Thundersport GP1 in his time, but at the moment it's not looking like he's going to be able to catch the Ram, John Ingram, your race leader, or Danny Murphy and Mark Miller. But stranger things have happened. In fact, he might catch Mark Miller, because Mark Miller's just a few yards up the road and they're lapping similar times at the moment. There's Kingsley Ruddy, number 29. Kingsley, a former super team, then he moved on to a Kawasaki 400. He's now on a BMW 1000 at the moment. Quite a tall rider for his age, still very young, but he really has got to grips with a 1000cc, which is, I've got to say, completely different to racing a 400 week in, week out. But he's coped with the transition very, very well at the front here. That's John Ingram pulling over. John Ingram, and the bike seems to have nipped up or something. What's happened there? The bike's given up the ghost. I think that his bike's just completely gone. He's out of the race. John Ingram, the race leader, is out. And that is big news, let me tell you. The Ram was fully expected to pick up a series of 25 points here this weekend. John Ingram, well, his Suzuki has given up the ghost. When I say nipped up, that usually applies more to a 125, but something there, the rear end locked up or something, so I think he might have 1 or 2 issues mechanically. He's pulled out of the race, so that means Danny Murphy is now leading this one from Mark Miller, number 18. There is Peter Baker, the reigning champion, number 1 on the Kawasaki, who won this championship last season, and he also won it back in 2009, the only rider to have won the GP1 championship twice. Mark Miller, though, doing a good job on that Aprilia, the split lathe Aprilia. Quite a fast bike, that one, as they head onto the start-finish straight. Beautiful machine, though, that Aprilia RSV4. But they're all trying to catch this man. Number 1, 2, 3, Danny Murphy. Well, we saw plenty of him last year in the Sportsman Elite 600 class, which will be coming up after this race. He's out there on the MPR Racing Kawasaki, just 21. Ex-Super Team rider, he challenged for that championship, he then challenged for the 450 Aprilia championship, he then went into the BSB Superstock 600s, maybe bit off a bit more than he could chew in that class, came back to Thundersport last year, won 2 championships, jumped on 1000, and well, he's picked up a few sponsors along the way, so Long Controls, Hearst Property Management, and considering Danny Murphy, just 21, was looking for a career in go-kart racing before he jumped on a bike. Looks like he's made the right decision, because the riders that he's beating at the moment are of quite a high level. They've been just about everywhere in terms of racing. 1 or 2 young, talented riders further down the grid. We've just seen Kingsley Ruddy go through there. There's number 21, Chris Barnes from Blackburn, the 34-year-old on the Inshore Fit machine. But it's Danny Murphy that leads. Oh, and further back. Oh, my word, that's actually a very nasty crash, that one. Further back into Murray's. And just trying to get confirmation as to who that is. Now, is that Justin Stevenson and Jordan Watling, perhaps? We'll have to try and get confirmation. But that was a horrible, horrible crash. Really, really nasty. And, well, nice to see that both riders are up and okay, even if they are a little bit frustrated with how that happened. But that's a big, big crash. I'm wondering what happened to John Waghorn as well. 115 has gone missing, and John is definitely a rider that can get himself up onto the podium, a race winner back at Brands Hatch. And there's an arm up here for Danny Murphy. Danny Murphy has got his arm up. Number 1, 2, 3, and we've got red flags. Red flags are out here. and that's for another crash out on circuit somewhere. So we've lost, well, I mentioned that we'd lost Jordan Watling and Justin Seedington. Either way, the red flags have gone out, and I think they'll use that as a race result. In fact, they will, and that means that Danny Murphy wins it. He is confirmed as the race winner. Danny Murphy wins from Peter Baker, who did get up ahead of Mark Miller in third. Phil Crowe fourth, Kingsley Ruddy fifth, second in the Superstocks, and you can see just to the right of him, Chris Barnes also third in the Superstocks, but Murphy the winner. And the GP1s, it's Baker, Mark Miller, and Phil Crowe.
Pete Baker, winner, GP1 Snetterton. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm really chuffed with that. That's good. Obviously, you know, we're on a new bike this year. That's been quite challenging the first few rounds. Maybe it's the weather, maybe the bike, but all turned around this weekend. For some reason, the bike feels absolutely fabulous now. We have made quite a few changes, and I can only thank Steve for seeing it through and making it work for me. That's brilliant.
Excellent. So, as well as Steve Bucknam of Morello, who else do you want to thank?
Yeah, I mean, there's Pete from the Red Cat and Tony Stannard who are here as well, all watching us today, because we're all local to here, sort of like half an hour away. So to win on your local circuit is fantastic.
Danny Murphy, winner of the Bike Insurer Superstock 1000, and indeed the race winner overall. You're up against some serious machinery there, and on a stock bike you shoo them away.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Snetterton, and getting to grips with the 1000 a little bit more. MPR Racing Team's done a great job of the bike this weekend. Just a shame about John pulling in, really. Hopefully he can get out for the next race and we can have a battle. Excellent.
Who else do you want to thank?
I'd like to thank Hurst Property Management, Long Controls, Bring Tech Holiday Home Park, Lisa, Motor Direct and RI, Heath Butler, Dave Tully's, Fleet Graphics, Dave Bostock at Mac Tools, yeah, so, my dad and Graham.
Well done, mate. Top man.
Thank you.
Wouldn't it be great to see 40 600s battling around Snetterton? Well, good news. We've got the 600s coming up after the break. Welcome back to Thundersport Elite here at Snetterton for round 3 of the 2013 championships, and it's now time for the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite, a gridful pack full of 600s here for this race. Daniel Freer on pole. We've got Formula 600 tuned machines up against Superstock 600s, but forget all that because we just want a close, clean race, and I think we'll probably get one. Richard McNeil, great to have Richard back on the front row again. He fought for this championship and finished runner-up a couple of years ago, the Ulsterman, number 22, and look out for him. Local rider John Lee lines up third on the grid, number 5. Norwich rider, so just about 20 minutes down the road, and then Lee Williams, number 94. Well, we'll be seeing plenty of Lee this year. We've seen plenty of him so far. Ex-Supermoto rider, he's taken to road racing like a duck to water and is flying. Here we go then. 12-lap race coming up for the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite at Thundersport GP. And we are racing. The red lights go out and they fly down towards Ritchie's corner. A good start for 94 Lee Williams, but an even better one from pole for Daniel Freer, number 66. Not a bad start from number 5, the local rider John Lee on the Triumph 675. That is a stock bike, so he might struggle a bit. There's number 50, Sam Thompson, going through, who, as we entered Snetterton, was leading the Superstock 600. Sam Cox, number 54, is having a good weekend. 77, Stuart Haslam. 69, Ryan Dixon, cousin of Jake Dixon, should be well up there. I saw a glimpse of Matthew Jones a little while ago as well, but all sorts of riders to keep your eyes out for here. Daniel Freer, though, one of the more experienced riders. He's still just 29, but he's well, he was a front runner at the BSB Superstock Championship in 2009 in the 600s, and this year, well, I don't think he was expecting it to be quite as competitive as it has been. The rider from Scunthorpe, there he is, 66, up ahead of 22. Richie McNeil, Richie, who has been in and out of Thundersport Championships over the year, a rider that struggles for a bit of funding. He's 22. He's got an identical twin Daniel that doesn't race, but Richard is looking for sponsorship all the time, and him and his dad Brian are always nice faces to see in the paddock. But Richie McNeil, despite at Donington crashing in qualifying and ending his weekend prematurely, well, this weekend he is back on it, and he is looking really, really quick. He's never been on this Snetterton 200 layout before. Oh, there's a rider just going straight on in the background there. Was that Chris Helliwell, I think it was? Number 64. Chris Helliwell, another rider that's having a blinder. He won the pre-national 600 race here last season. There's a stationary yellow flag as their riders are tipping into Nelson and the Brundle and Nelson. I'm not sure what that's about, but we've obviously on a waved yellow now, so there's obviously a rider gone down at the bomb hole. Further back there, Lee Williams and John Lee getting a bit close and personal, almost touching. So leaders come into the bomb hole section, and that's the reason why I think it's James Shaw. James Shaw has gone out of the race, another rider that's doing very well so far in his first full season of road racing. Down into turn one we go. It's Daniel Freer, that is leading the way. Daniel really late on the brakes around Snetterton. He's been hard to beat so far. Lee Williams well up there, number 94, the yellow bike in third place. There is Sam Thompson, and again, the bright yellow and black machines, Chris Helliwell there, just running a bit wide into Montreal. It's easy to fight back into a decent position again, though, because they flick left onto the Bentley Straight. But it's Freer that leads from Richard McNeil. They're just trying to break themselves away from the chasing riders in third and fourth. That's Lee Williams, 94, and John Lee, number 5. John Lee, if you're familiar with Snetterton and racing that goes on here, well, he tends to turn up at Snetterton rounds. He was blisteringly quick on a 125 GP bike, and he's just as quick on that 675. Could there be a change for a lead there? Richie McNeil thought about just sneaking up the inside of Daniel Freer into Murray's, but no, it's not going to happen. But as they go on to the start-finish straight, these 3 bikes are all Formula 600 bikes, so they're all tuned. And it doesn't necessarily mean to say that they're all absolutely identical. We've got 3 completely different manufacturers, in fact 4 in the top 4. We've got Yamaha leading, Suzuki second, Honda third, and a Triumph in 4th place. And they tipped down into Montreal, and it's still Freer from Richard McNeil. McNeil, as I mentioned at the start of this race, fought for this championship a few years ago, ended up losing out to Ben Field in the end. Ben, who went on to compete at British Supersport. Daniel Freer has been very, very quick, but we're now coming up to a section of the circuit where McNeil seems to have it all sussed out as they come around into the bomb hole and then up towards Coram Curve. That seems to be where Richard McNeil takes most of his advantage. There's Helliwell going through again. Sam Cox, number 54. Haslam, Stuart Haslam, that is. I don't believe he's any relation to Leon, who's actually just picked up quite a monster injury, so we send our best wishes to Leon Haslam. He's just broken his tib and fib, I believe, at World Superbikes, but I don't believe Stuart Haslam is related. I saw just Dan Stanton going through there, number 8. He's fighting away with Dylan Roberts and Neil Glasgow, but the leaders now heading up towards Montreal. It's still the blue and yellow machine of Daniel Freer that leads from McNeil, Lee Williams, and there is the red, white and black Triumph of John Lee, the local rider from Norwich. I think John Lee's just about the only rider that can understand Sid on the podium. They both speak the same dialect, so they should get on just fine when they speak a bit later on. Number 66 there, Daniel Freer from Scunthorpe, and the Ulsterman there, number 22, Richie McNeil. I've got to say I'm impressed with McNeil's pace here. We've got 40 or so riders, and there's talent all the way through, down to probably the top, I'd say down to 20 if you've got race winners. And there's a big crash there, number 40, that's Jamie Edwards, a race winner previously at 125 level, and he's a bit hurt there on the turquoise coloured machine. He hobbles away, does Jamie, but it's a shame for him. He's gone down. We've also lost Jimmy Nixon somewhere. The last lap flag is out. And as they turn around to come up to Sam Holton, who's about to be lapped, Richie McNeil here, well, has he just lost out on a bit of time, courtesy of these back markers? Daniel Freer filtering through nicely. There he is, number 66. Oh, and that's not worked out for him very well at all. Richie McNeil just got held up through Montreal. That's not Sam Holton's fault, I should just point out. As a back marker, you're told to hold station. It's the job of the riders coming through to deal with it. It was just a bit unfortunate on both counts there. Further back, that is 77 Stuart Haslam. And there is 106, Joe Barton also going through. And David Brook as well, number 73. But at the front, well, I think that's it. I think Daniel Freer has done enough to win this race here. The Van Intura 600 Sportsman Elite, courtesy of some good moves through the back markers. And Daniel Freer is going to win the Sportsman Elite 600s here. It was a good close race for the majority, but he takes 25 points ahead of Richie McNeil, who'll be a little bit frustrated with that final lap. In third place, it is Lee Williams, and then John Lee goes across the line in fourth, but wins the Superstock 600 Challenge ahead of Ryan Dixon. Stuart Haslam was sixth overall as they cross the line here at Sunny Snet. So Formula 600's top three then, Daniel Freer, Richard McNeil on the left and Lee Williams on the right. And in the Superstocks it's John Lee, Ryan Dixon and Sam Cox.
John Lee, a winner of the Van Intura Superstock 600. Big grin on your face.
Oh yes, couldn't have been better. It's been a fantastic weekend. There's some seriously quick riders out there, and to be amongst the front runners of them, I couldn't wish for any better. So yeah, good day.
That's fantastic. And who do you want to thank?
I want to thank David Kidd and Darren Kidd of South Farm Engineering for all their help, Brian Ingles of A&B Tyres, and everybody else who's helped me throughout my career. Without them, I'd never be here. So yeah, massive thanks to them.
Fantastic, very well done.
Cheers.
Dan Freer, winner of the race overall indeed, and the Bike Insurer Formula 600. You're having a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, the bikes are going spot on, like, so it's making my job a bit easier. Just jump on them, ride them flat out, and it's been working, like, so.
I think that's a bit modest, but I think you're having to work hard. And I mean, Richard pushed you very hard there. Richard McNeil, I mean, it was nip and tuck all the way I watched it.
Yeah, he seems a bit quicker than me going around Coram, and then I seem to get it back on the brakes, and it's just like that all the way through. Like, it's good, hard work though.
And who do you want to thank?
Bass Tyres, Northlands Components, and Paul Borrell.
Well, if I were you, I'd put that chair down and settle for races 3 and 4 coming up after the break. Welcome back to Snetterton for the second Thundersport GP1 race, brought to you by the Bike Insurer and loyal supporters of Thundersport GB. On pole it is John Ingram. Well, I can confirm that something definitely went pop in his engine in race 1, because he's out there now on his Triumph 675. Now this is the bike that he's actually going to be competing in the TT on, so he's obviously just giving that a bit of a run out. I can't imagine he'll go all guns blazing, because they want to keep it in good shape, but it means that he's at a distinct disadvantage. I would have said he's not going to have much fun down the back straights against these machines. Danny Murphy looking for win number 2 of the day. Phil Crowe there, 2010 champion, 2009 champion, and last year's champion there, number 1. Peter Baker on the Morello Services Kawasaki. A number of talented riders throughout the grid. I mentioned Jenny Tinmouth is missing because of a crash yesterday. Steve Mercer was set to race until he got a knock to the head down at Montreal. A number of other riders that you may well remember. Michael Niblett is out there. Ed Peed, if you're a fan of car racing as well, Ed Peed is out there having some fun. But here we are then. We start and down into turn 1. Of course, John Ingram struggling with the power of that Triumph 675. He doesn't quite get the whole shot. I tell you where he will make an advantage though, from pretty much Brundle and Nelson onwards. That's where he should probably pick up his time on that 675, but I can't see him keeping the pace with the front runners. Got yellow flags waved in the background there at Montreal, so we've obviously had 1 or 2 riders that have gone down, and as the riders come down into where's Phil Crowe? Phil Crowe has gone missing. Oh, I think Phil Crowe might be the one that's gone down, you know. Phil Crowe is missing from that leading group, and the 2010 champion isn't there. He's out of this race, so, well, all sorts of things going on in the GP1 Championship. Does anyone want to actually win this thing? Well, we will find out. This is all good news for Danny Murphy, though, who's flying, but it is Mark Miller that got the whole shot. And look at that, it's John Ingram on the Triumph 675, who swoops around the outside and is now leading onto the start-finish straight. Watch the power, though, of this Aprilia RSV4. Look at that. Unbelievable. That just goes to show you the power difference in the GP1 machines and the 675. So Miller it is that leads again from John Ingram. In the background, I think it is race 1 winner, number 1, 2, 3, Danny Murphy. Oh, and Ingram nearly came off then, nearly falling. He lost the front and managed to recover. Good work from the experienced rider from Wigan. The Ram saves the day. and remains on the 6.75. Down into the back straight. This is the point where Ingram will make up the time through these twisty bits here at Snetterton. There aren't too many of them, but it's Miller that leads from John Ingram. In the background there is Danny Murphy, and then it's Pete Baker in fourth. And look at this, John Ingram going around the outside of the bomb hole. That is so quick around there, and he's going to do it again now around Coram Curve. Further back, that's Peter Baker having a proper tussle, but these two are side by side around Coram Curve. They're almost flat out around there. Into Murray's they go and onto the start-finish straight, but guess what? Here comes the Aprilia, the split lath Redmond Aprilia on the start-finish straight, and it looks to me like Ingram's almost weaving on the start-finish straight, trying to prevent Miller from going past him. But look who's coming to play. It's race one winner. Danny Murphy on that stock 1000 machine has said, oh, I've had enough of these games. I want to get past the pair of you and get my double win on the board. Peter Baker leading the battle for fourth place further back. John Waghorn, Kingsley Ruddy, Alistair Fagan, Blake Walls, all part of that group. But at the front, look at the advantage that Miller is able to make on the back straight. But now Ingram has got company in the shape of a young 21-year-old from Rochdale, Danny Murphy, number 21. John Ingram is nearly crashing his bike into every turn, just trying to keep up with him. There's John Waghorn, number 115. Waggy has got himself up ahead of Peter Baker, the reigning champion. And Alistair Fagan is up there as well. Alistair is the rider with the black and bright yellow leathers there. Onto the start-finish straight we go, and it's Miller that leads from John Ingram and Danny Murphy. But here comes Danny Murphy now. Is he looking to try and make a pass on John Ingram into turn one? He certainly attempted to go through. Has it come off? Yes, it has. Good move there from Danny Murphy. He moves up into second place, and now he's got eyes only for Mark Miller on the split lath Redmond Aprilia. And just on the exit there of the apex of Ritchie's, that was defending champion Peter Baker, just going for a bit of a motocross lesson. He'll have lost some time there. Back straight, Mark Miller still leads on the Aprilia from Danny Murphy on the Kawasaki, and then it's the Triumph 675 of John Ingram. You can see there that they've got about half a second on Ingram, but look at how much time Ingram makes up on them through these next two right-handers. It's unbelievable how quick he's going on that Triumph through these sections. How he's living with the pace at the front, I do not know, and he's hanging around the outside again, going past Danny Murphy, and then up the inside into Murray's. Great work from John Ingram, using all of that experience, the 37-year-old from Wigan. Well, his Pallet Racing Suzuki might have gone pop, but his talent certainly hasn't. But look, there's a change for the lead, and Danny Murphy goes up the inside now of Mark Miller, number 18. The Aprilia rider, well, he thought he was just fighting with John Ingram. He isn't. Danny Murphy looking to do the double here. 77 just going through. Your picture there is Sam Fleetwood, a number of different riders. There is Mark Miller's teammate, number 400, Wyon Chong, on the Aprilia. Another rider that we're hearing whispers he might be looking to try and get into the TT later in the year. But at the front of this GP1 race, sponsored by the bike insurer, it's Murphy from Miller, and John Ingram still battling away hard on that Triumph 675. And he's going to try and go around the outside of Mark Miller again into Coram Curve. They're flat out on their knees around there, I should just remind you. And again, he moves up the inside of Mark Miller and tries to chase down Danny Murphy. He can't keep the front wheel down now, and he's lost all momentum. Miller goes back past him again. Further back, John Waghorn is doing a good job of managing fourth place overall. That would put him second in the super stocks, because Murphy is actually leading the race outright, and he's on super stock machinery. Kingsley Ruddy is having a good battle with the reigning champion Peter Baker. Alistair Fagan is up there in the mix as well. So is Niblett, Blake Walds, Chris Barnes, Barry Teasdale, Darrell Dance, Ed Peed, etc. There is Simon Critchlow, number 2. Simon out there on the Suzuki looking for a few points. We've got Dan Hill out there also, and Fleetwood, as I mentioned, Andy Fenton. Here is your race leader, 1, 2, 3, Danny Murphy, ahead of number 18, Mark Miller. Then it is John Ingram on that Triumph. How has he managed to stay with the leaders for so long? You've got to say that Danny Murphy's doing an excellent job of just pumping in fast laps after fast laps. He's into the 111s already, and he's able just to break away from these two. I think are probably just going to scrap to the line now. There's not long to go in this GP1 race, and it looks like Murphy could go on to do a double against some really talented riders, but he is one himself. He is your race leader. Mark Miller gets past Ingram again. Oh, and he's got his hand up. Maybe he's just made a bit of a, I don't know, a rash move on John Ingram. Either way, I thought he was pulling out of the race for a minute. Miller it is in second. There's Murphy just going through, Steve Murphy, number 10. And once more we see Sam Fleetwood. Number 38 going through there is Oliver Linzel. So they are your battles for 14th, 15th and 16th. And once more, Dan Hill, 75 and 400 there. Wyon Chong on the Aprilia. Still Danny Murphy, he's just putting in some seriously quick laps and he leads. This is the battle for second and third. That's Miller and John Ingram, and there is Waggy, John Waghorn, number 115. I've got to say that John Waghorn's lap times at the moment are suggesting that if we had another 10 or 15 laps, he could probably get himself up onto the podium and fight for second and third overall. We've seen the race leader going through, and it's all looking pretty good for him. There was Pete Baker we just saw. He's having a good run out there. Blake Wald's also having a good run. Number 19, Blake. There's Alistair Fagan as well. He's up in the mix. That one isn't Alistair Fagan, I should just point out. Alistair Fagan's leading that gaggle of riders. Down into Brundle and Nelson. It is Danny Murphy that leads from Mark Miller and John Ingram. What a double win this would be for Danny Murphy going into Cadwell Park in a few weeks' time. Didn't expect, this is no disrespect to Danny Murphy, but I didn't expect to see a Superstock 1000 bike winning races here. Further back, there is Alistair Fagan, number 44, ahead of Kingsley Ruddy, 29, and number 1, Peter Baker, the reigning champion. Still not quite, I would say, up to full pace yet on that Kawasaki. He's pretty good at Snetterton, and I expected to see him up there, but the last lap flag is out now for the race leader, Danny Murphy, and he's got a good 4 seconds over the rest of the pack. Will he roll it off and just try and cruise home now? What a ride this has been from Danny, the 21-year-old on the MPR Racing Kawasaki. That fight for second continues, and John Waghorn still in 4th. There's Darrell Dance, number 47 on the Carbon Tech Racing BMW. Darrell just outside the top 10 at the moment, ahead of Ed Peed and Stephen Murphy. But this is the final lap. Danny Murphy looks like he's home and dry. This is the fight for second place now. Miller, can he beat that Triumph 675 to the line? But here comes John Ingram, powering out of Nelson Turn. What a move that was from the Ram. He rams his way into second place. And as they come around Coram Curve, will Mark Miller have any answer to that? Meanwhile, Danny Murphy out front faces Murray's, and that's it. Will he have a look over his shoulder? I don't think so. Flat out on the start-finish straight, and Danny Murphy does the double here at Snetterton. A great win for Danny. He takes 50 points from today. Who will get second in the background? It's close, but it's Mark Miller. Mark Miller just gets John Ingram on the line. Not much in it, you've got to say. Miller wins the GP1s ahead of Ingram by finishing second and third, but Danny Murphy is your winner overall. He'll pick up the 25 points. John Waghorn was 4th, second in the stocks. Kingsley Ruddy 5th overall, 3rd in the stocks, and Peter Baker, the reigning champion, in 6th. There you are, the stock podium men. Danny Murphy ahead of John Waghorn and Kingsley Ruddy. And the GP1s, Miller, Ingram and Peter Baker. The points then as we head into Cadwell Park. Peter Baker is your leader, but by 1 point ahead of Murphy, who's 1 point ahead of Ingram. Close stuff.
Bike insurer, Thundersport GP1 winner, Mark Miller from the USA.
Yeah, Los Angeles, yeah.
It's a long way to come. The first time for you with us, what did you think of it?
You know, it's a really cool organization. You know, everybody's been super nice, and it's really well organized, and I'm really impressed, and I'm just happy to be here, you know, to get some seat time before the Alaman TT takes us over there, and it's been a lot of fun. And you got some fast guys here, man, for sure.
Thanks very much, and you look like you were enjoying it anyway. Have you got some people to thank?
Yeah, the Split Last Redman team, Aprilia, just amazing. The Pirellis worked amazing, and Dave and all the crew. My girlfriend Veronique's here from the Alaman. So yeah, just and everybody that's come out to be a part of this. Thank you.
Very well done. Thanks for coming, Mark.
Thanks a lot.
Danny Murphy, Superstock 1000 winner, but race winner overall, and you were away with it, man.
Yeah, it was a bit difficult to try and get your head around the two red flags earlier in the day, but I didn't get as good of a start then, but I made my way back, settled in, and just took it as it was. Tried to settle at the front. Yeah, it's a good race.
You definitely got your head down, didn't you, there? Who do you got to thank, mate?
My dad and Graham, Fleet Graphics, Dave Tully's, Dave Bostock from Mac Tools, Hurst Property Management, Long Controls, Air Vane Compressors, Lisa for the Day and Easy levers and the RI helmet. Got another one. I can't remember. Dave from the Bike Insurer does some great pictures for us for the weekend, yeah.
The joys of the A11 are about to be followed by the joys of the 600s coming up after the break. Here we are then for the last part of the show, the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite featuring Formula and Superstock 600 bikes. A full grid here, and Daniel Freer looking to repeat what he did earlier by taking the victory in 25 points, number 66. He's having a good time in the championship so far, but he will have company in this race. Make no mistake about it, this man here, the Ulsterman Richard McNeil, if it weren't for just a bit of trouble on that final lap in race 1 with a back marker, could he have made the challenge? Well, he's got another bite at the cherry here. There's number 5, we spoke to him earlier, the winner of the Superstock race, finishing in 4th overall, John Lee. Can he get that triumph up in the top 3 and fight with both Freer and McNeil? We will find out. And Lee Williams, well, Lee's definitely got the talent to be there. He just needs to get that Honda off the line. Plenty of other talent to look out for, and we'll try and get through some of those during the next 12 laps. But the red flag is up, and that means we're just about ready to go racing here for the final race of the weekend here at Snetterton. And away they go from the line. It was a good start from number 94, Lee Williams, but it was also a good start from number 66, Daniel Freer, who takes the whole shot yet again as this packed grid of 600s fly through into Ritchie's corner and then power uphill. Down then into Montreal. It's Freer that leads from McNeil, Lee in 3rd, and then it's Williams in 4th place. Chris Helliwell got himself off to a decent start. I can see Richie Connell there having a decent scratch. Joe Barton's up in the mix, and Richie Connell just lost a bit of drive there, number 97, the rider. Oh, and that's Dixon. Dixon's out of the race. Cousin of Jake Dixon, Ryan. We expected to see him in the stock podium, but he's out of the race already, and that might be down at Montreal, out of the proceedings. Number 66 there. Freer leads, McNeil 2nd, Lee in 3rd, and Chris Helliwell, what a ride he's having. He's up into 4th place. Cox is there. What's happened to Lee Williams? Lee Williams has got problems. Number 94, Lee Williams has fallen way back, and he looked to be touring there on the Honda. Has he got a problem with his machine? Well, he could have fought for the podium. It's not to be in this race. We have got a race that has basically been on all weekend. These two have been fighting it out from race 1 all the way through to this one, and it's going to be surely between number 66 on the right of your screen and number 22 on the left. Richard McNeil on the left, Freer on the right. Freer leads. There's John Lee though. John might be slightly down on power, but he does have the advantage of circuit knowledge. He knows every single lump and bump around Snetterton. Make no mistake about it. In 4th place there, Chris Helliwell is having the ride of his life. Look at that. What a start it was for him. 77 Haslam. James Shaw is up there as well. Sam Thompson, who had such a great Brands Hatch opening part of the season. Sam Cox is also in the mix. Neil Glasgow, Adam Clark, Dylan Roberts, Jamie Morris, Dan Stanton. So many riders to look out for, but at the front it is this race that continues, and I thought Richard McNeil was almost going to run into the back of Daniel Freer then. It's resulted in them both coming out on the bike, which is what we want to see, a close race. Look how much pace though Richard McNeil carries into Coram Curve here. He's able to actually just turn to the outside. That's Lewis Osler, who's gone for a bit of a tour around Norfolk and just rejoined the circuit. Number 82 there, Lewis Osler, and he'll rejoin, well, he was in the points, but he'll rejoin way back into the mid to late 20s as we tip into turn 1. Daniel Freer really late on the brakes there, not really letting the white and blue Suzuki of Richard McNeil through. John Lee doing a good job in 3rd at the moment of just clinging on to the back of them. And then there's a big gap back to 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th that are battling, but at the moment it's Chris Helliwell that leads that fight. I tell you what, if Chris Helliwell finishes anywhere near that top 5, he'll think that's a win, and that's Joe Barton. Joe Barton has gone down, a rider that fought for the Thundersport 500 championship last year. It's his first year on a 600. He's bitten the dust. He's out of this one. There's Helliwell in 4th place, up ahead of Stuart Haslam, number 77. I've been impressed with Stuart Haslam this year, the 36-year-old from Langley Mill on the MSG Racing Triumph. Really going well in the early parts of the season, and here comes McNeil. He's moved up into the lead of the race now, past Daniel Freer. And what will Daniel Freer have to say about that as they go onto the start-finish straight? Freer will tuck into the slipstream now of Richard McNeil, and they're going to be side by side as they head down into turn 1. And I've got to tell you that Freer is usually the last of the late breakers into turn 1, and here it is again. He does regain the lead. And as much as this must be frustrating for Richard McNeil, you just cannot shrug him off. He'll just keep on fighting. You've got to admire the persistence of both riders. There's Richie Connell, just up ahead of number 32, Nick Clift. Nice to see Nick out there fighting away. He's got himself the white and blue colour scheme just to follow his team, Tottenham Hotspur. Good choice, Nick, good choice. Further front here, it is still Freer ahead of Richard McNeil. This is the battle for the overall lead, and it's great to see a proper fight. And this is certainly the section of circuit where Richard McNeil seems to have the edge. You can see him looking to get through again. There's number 97, Richie Connell, and number 32, Nick Clift. Once more, they're just battling way back in about 20th and 21st. They'll expect to be much further up than that later on in the season. Lee Shellcross also going through there, number 55. Lee from Manchester, a rider who actually started his pretty super teen career back at the same year as I started racing. It's just that he's still racing and I'm talking about it. That says a lot for my career, doesn't it? Number 4 there, James Shaw just behind Sam Cox. And they are battling for 6th and 7th place. Back to the front, it's Freer who leads still from McNeil. That's the fight for 3rd and 4th. That's John Lee. And is that Stuart Haslam who's closing down the gap, or have they just put a lap on someone? We'll have to find. I think they've just put a lap on someone. There's James Shaw and number 54, Sam Cox. And I think that's Sam Thompson who's got himself up there as well. It is Sam Thompson who did so well at Brands Hatch and came into Snetterton as the Superstock 600 championship leader. It looks like him and Sam are going to be battling out for the rest of the year. Last lap flag out. It's between Freer and it's between McNeil, and once again they've come up to some traffic. Oh no, it's happened again. Freer has picked the moment perfectly. He's moved past the back marker into turn 1, and once more on the final lap, Richie McNeil has been dealt a bad hand, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to take that one back again now. Freer, well, it looks like it's his to lose. That's a good fight going on for 4th, 5th and 6th further back there between the likes of Helliwell, Cox, Thompson and Neil Glasgow. But Daniel Freer here just filtering through the traffic nicely, and he's left it till the last lap to pull the pin. Richard McNeil there, after getting past the back marker, is still going to try and fight to the line, and this is the battle, let me tell you, for 2nd, 3rd and 4th on the podium in the Super Stock 600 category. The rider number 54 ahead with the blue, white and orange leathers there, Sam Cox, ahead of the Super Stock 600 championship leader, Sam Thompson. But it's Daniel Freer that will pick up the spoils. 25 points for him. He extends his championship lead as we head into Cadwell Park next month. Richard McNeil, well, he'll be frustrated with how his 2 last lap performances have gone. There's Chris Helliwell. Chris has got 5th. Look, he's celebrating like he's just won the MotoGP championship. Unbelievable stuff from him. That's a really good result in a field full of talent. Sam Cox goes across the line and will get 3rd on the podium. So confirmation, Freer, McNeil, Lee, Haslam, Helliwell and Cox are your top 6. So it's Freer, McNeil and Haslam that will take the podium in the Formula 600s. And there they are with Daniel Freer, the winner, in the middle. And then in the Superstock 600s, it's John Lee again with the win ahead of Chris Helliwell and Sam Cox. And Helliwell looks delighted. In the championship then, as we head to Cadwell, it is Freer with a good championship lead now ahead of Lee Williams and Sam Thompson in 3rd.
Winner Dan Freer and 2nd place man Richard McNeil. You've been you've been battling all weekend really, and it's been so close. Been a joy to watch, and well, how do you feel about it, Rich?
I felt it was a really good race. Obviously, I've never raced with Dan Freer before. He's definitely a top rider in this championship, so fingers crossed with Cadwell Park coming up next, maybe I can get the top step.
So it seems like you got him at Cadwell Park again. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I'll be nervous. I think I spent more time in the toilet than I have in the awning this weekend. When you know you're coming up to a battle like that, it's the nerves are horrendous. But it's been awesome all weekend. I think he was faster around the back section, and I was probably a bit stronger around the front section. Kept coming around the outside of me, around Coram, and yeah, it's been tight all weekend.
Well, the thing is that when you're racing that close for that long a race, it's kind of, you have to have quite a lot of respect for each other. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. You got to still keep your distance, although it's close racing. Like Dan says, around Coram there, where basically my shoulder was on his front wheel nearly every single lap. I'm sure you'll agree. But you do definitely have to keep your respect as well. Yeah.
But anyway, who would you like to thank, Richard, while you're here?
I'd like to thank my dad most of all, and Jordan Burrows. They've helped me out a lot. Also all my sponsors, personal sponsors, Nut Travel, Goodridge, Daytona, Drew Patrick, Dialavan, Motortech, and RJ's Car Restoration most of all. Really big thanks to them.
Thanks, Rich. And although you were nervous, you say, I'm not sure I believe that, but anyway, it's. Would you agree that he's up to the standard as well, and you have a lot of respect? Would you agree for the riders that when you can race that close and push as hard as you did?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It just comes natural. Really, it's just something that you do. I don't know what it is. Like he says, his elbow was nearly on my front wheel, and if I lost the front, we'd have both been down. But I don't know. It's just one of them things that you do. I don't know. I can't explain it.
Who do you want to thank, Dan?
NL Components, Bass Tyres, and Paul Burrow.
Well done. Well done, both of you.
Thanks very much.
Winner, the Van Insurer Superstock 600. You must be delighted with these results today.
What can I say? I'm speechless. It's been a weekend to remember. It's been a hard-fought race. I raced my heart out all weekend, more than I ever have done, and yes, it's come planned. So I'm delighted.
Well, I'm not surprised, and you should be very proud of yourself. This is serious company you're in.
Yeah, that's the hardest racing I've had to do all this year and last year. They're the best of club racing here, and yeah, to be up the front with them, like I say, I'm absolutely ecstatic. That's been a brilliant weekend.
Brilliant, John. Who would you like to thank?
David Kidd of South Farm Engineering and Darren Kidd, Brian Ingles of A&B Tyres, and all of my other friends and supporters who helped me along the way. Many thanks to them.
Very well done indeed.
Cheers.
Well, from the flat countryside here in Norfolk, we head to the hills of Lincolnshire. Cadwell Park is next up for Thundersport GB. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.